Hello. Morning all. Update. Every time, literally every time they update the software for the microphone, it just goes, I think I'll pick another device. I know, let's choose the VR headset, which is all the way over there, so it doesn't pick it up. Morning everybody, JC, Evil, FTNet. I'll just repeat myself. Virginia, George, Gregors, Daniel, Roswitha, Chucks, Gina, Evil, JC, Rodrigo, Chucks, no volume. Yeah, everyone's just saying that. Everybody else, hello, good morning, Peter, Jules, everybody. Is anybody watching Married at First Sight Australia at the moment, just out of interest? Morning, Martin, Neo. I just reminded myself of the woman on Married at First Sight when I said, George. There's a lady at the moment that speaks through her nose. Anyway, morning. Kicking off everything. Everything's kicking off. As you can see, ADR dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree this morning. The Israeli army have hit back at Iran. So we've had safe haven runs this morning. Oil's gone through the roof because I've got an oil trade on. And obviously Swiss franc has pumped like crazy. A bit of strength coming into the yen as well. The yen safe haven run has been mixed depending on which currency it is. So as you can see, any kind of conflict, we get safe haven runs, which is the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc. So both of those this morning, big pump. They often will undo as fast as they do. It all depends what happens next. So this morning, the next few hours is going to be critical as to whether or not we get a next leg on these. But what you will probably find, because it's Friday, especially with the FX markets, we've obviously got a long way to go over the weekend where anything can happen. So what institutions tend to do is if there is a weekend no trading coming up, they'll pull the money out of stock markets and drive them into safe havens for the weekend and then pop them back on Monday, depending what's happened over the weekend. So we might find we get a continuation on this. This may be it, but we might find we get a continuation on this today as they run back into the safe havens before the weekend. So that will probably happen during the New York session if it happens. But obviously, if missiles start firing, continue firing over this morning, obviously these will probably power back up again. So good looking short opportunities on everything against the Swiss franc. Swiss yen, as you can see, this gives you a gauge as to what the power was into the safe havens. So Swiss and yen being the safe havens. As you can see, the Swiss franc rallied 125 against the yen, meaning that the majority of the money came into the Swiss franc rather than the Japanese yen, which you would expect at the moment because the yen is just massively weak and they just don't really want to do an awful lot with it. But so big move there. But obviously you can see there's a V-shaped recovery underway at the moment. This is the safe haven move, this propulsion gap. So if they are going to add into it, we shouldn't really invalidate that high. We should get more selling on everything against it from this area. So that's where you would look for a continuation move to come from. So if you want to get into any of this in anticipation of more escalation, more safe haven runs, this morning it's basically just a case of you just hit the sell button on everything against the Swiss franc. Not everything. Obviously, that would overexpose you. Well, if you want to get overexposed, that's fine. The moral. Just think risk, yeah? If you go every single Swiss franc short and the Swiss franc and this all de-escalates, it's going to go up there. So, yeah, use your head. But obviously, everything pumping. Oh, my God, I'm out of the Swiss. I could have sworn I changed my targets on the US dollar Swiss. Obviously, I didn't. I've done it again. I thought I'd got rid of my... Oh, Jesus. 2%. So I just banked 2% on the US dollar Swiss. I got to scale back into that position again now. Half of this trade was taken with the market reversal alerts EA. Half of this trade was taken with the position trader EA. I thought I'd turn to the US dollar Swiss targeting off. Obviously not. So that's 10% for the minute, and individuals. Actually, just going to disable it. Bear me a sec. $49. Just going to add a couple of positions onto that. US dollar Swiss again. Stupid. Anyway, so how's some US dollar Swiss? My average is not far away from where we are now, so I'm not too worried about that. 100, so 110. So it's 2 ADR away, which is fine. But yeah, hopefully, hopefully this escalation continues from my personal perspective, because I'm short US dollar yen and I'm short US dollar Swiss. So both of those will benefit from that. But yeah, be very, whenever you get these runs into safe havens, obviously, this is everything you see on this ADR dashboard this morning is caused by this escalation. So just ignore everything this morning, because this is going to do one of two things. It's either going to be a V-shaped recovery on de-escalation, or it's going to be an escalation and continuation. So your decision-making process this morning is not based on technicals. It's not based on fundamentals. It's based on, is there going to be more rockets? If there is, you sell. If there isn't, you buy. That's what you basically do with the Swiss and the yen. So that's the choices. So what seems to have happened overnight is the Israelis have hit one strategic area in Iran. It's still a bit sketchy. News is because obviously it's only happened 3 o'clock this morning, so it's only sort of 4 or 5 hours old. So it seems that it's been just a targeted strike, i.e. poke, which is basically all they're doing. They're just poking back and saying, yeah, you shot a load of rockets over, none of yours got through. We shot a load of rockets over, some of ours did. Basically, it's just they're just poking each other, aren't they? So the Iran army chiefs have come out this morning and basically said, you've seen our reaction to this. We're not doing anything. You've basically shot some stuff. We've shot some of it down. That's it at the moment. So it's over on Israel's foot at the moment, is whether or not they escalate. So what will happen is oil, as you can see, we had a big rally on oil, 150 ADR, something like that. I'm just keeping an eye on the news over on this monitor. It's flicking past. So yeah, oil, if this escalates, as you can see, that is the reaction we get. This is why I've got this speculative long on at the moment. I'm going to add to it if we break this high today as well. If it kicks off, oil prices will go through the roof. And as we know, the target on oil is astronomical. If we look at where we got up to with the Ukraine conflict, and this is basically just a restriction in oil, not a destruction of oil, which is what tends to happen with Gulf War. We blow oil up, which makes it even worse. So, you know, that is not off the cards in the next few weeks if it kicks off. You can see how quick we got there when that escalated, when Russia moved into Ukraine. We went from there to there literally within a week. So if you take a measured move there of 380 and here 380, yeah, we're looking at getting somewhere up into this area here by the end of next week. So hence, obviously, this is a speculative trade. It's flip a coin. Yes to war, no to war. That's basically how the trade will pan out. So anything Swiss franc will be a sell if it kicks off. Anything oil and gold, you buy it. Anything yen, you sell everything against the yen because the yen will power up. The US dollar also during conflict often will power up as well. Haven't seen any signs of that so far this morning. If you look at things like euro US dollar and pound US dollar, there's no real strength at all in the US at the minute, which isn't surprising because the market is expecting a drop in the US coming forward, but we've had the CPI figure which has done that. It's just changes by the day at the moment. So there's nothing happened to the US so far today. So that's overnight news. There's no other overnight news to speak of. We'll look at the retail sales in a minute. We've had some news coming out of Europe. The ECB have been muttering for the last 24 hours about definitely moving rates in June. It's looking like it's a 95% certainty the rates are going to drop in June unless anything dramatic happens. Even talks about possibly next month. Although I think that's probably a little eager, but we'll see. That's the news coming out with the Israeli strikes. Japan, not a lot overnight. We had the Japanese CPI coming out. CPI has dropped in Japan, which is negative yen. But it's not so much negative yen because they don't, at the moment, use interest rates to control inflation. So not really anything, as you can see. But that's it overnight. There's no other overnight news today. We had also Kashkari last night coming out and saying we might not change our rates until 2025. I posted this in the Discord channel, which is now over there. Because this is something I spoke about yesterday in the live room, that there is a possibility of them not doing the rates this year. If that CPI figure, if they get a double bounce on the CPI figure, that's going to push that September, October, November date back. There's only one way to go next year. So it may be that we don't change the rates next year, which means that the US dollar will be very neutral to bullish for the rest of the year. So you want to be buying US dollar for the rest of the year, which would, in essence, mean that the markets we looked at yesterday, stock indices, come down. So it's an absolutely crazy time at the moment for trading, because it seems like every few weeks we get something conflicting with what we were expecting. And there's just no way of forecasting any directional bias on anything at the minute. It's just nuts, but we will see. So that's your overnight news. This morning we had the retail sales for the UK. We were forecasting a slight increase from our 0.1. We actually got a slight decrease. So if you look at the pound, news came out at 7 a.m., which was 9, which is here. So if you look at the pound, obviously we had negative news, so it popped. This is why you don't trade news, because it does what the hell it likes anyway. So there's not really any news, any movement off of it if you look at it. So very little reaction to that news on the pound, because it is just retail sales and they're not really an awful lot different to what we were expecting. So if that had come out as a negative 0.5 or something like that, then it would have been a little bit more impactful, because it leads to decline in retail is obviously recessionary. So, but it's not. So there's not a lot of difference there. So today, basically, 50 basis point cuts. Yeah, how long? That doesn't help us because you don't tell us when. They're talking about the ECB having a blow if the Fed don't cut their rates as well. So need to keep an eye on the news. Just keep an eye on this today, because today is all about Iran and Israel. So any movement that you see in the market today, the market is going to be incredibly jittery today, because they will be, as you can see, that was the reaction. 200% ADR was the reaction to one missile strike. Yeah. Imagine if Israel suddenly decided to chuck 300 over there. The Iranians' air defense system is not like Iron Dome. They will not be able to stop it. And if that happens, we're already talking about Israel potentially committing genocide at the moment. If they suddenly start blowing the crap out of Iran as well, the world is going to look at this in a very different light, and we don't know how they're going to react. So you could find a 300-400 ADR move on this day if it escalates. It might peter out and do absolutely nothing. But either way, anything that happens today is going to be reactionary to that. So got a world-changing potentially event happening today. Just got to sit through it. So from an analysis perspective, not really a lot of point in analyzing much. Any of these ADRs, they've all played out. So as you can see, Aussie dollar Swiss. So the ADR hit was it's a mess, isn't it? The ADR hit was down to 225 ADR. That was your first reversal alert that you got today there. So, you can't trade any of this. It's all happened before the market opened, and it's too big. So there's nothing really you can look at today and say that's a good opportunity, because anything you get into today, there's a very large chance it will work out or it will go against you. And it won't just go against you a little bit, it will go against you by a couple of hundred ADR, which isn't going to be good. So just kind of sit on your hands type day today, and just see what happens, really. It's more of an observation day than trying to find any opportunities. Anything that you're in, obviously, is at risk of making a lot of money or getting... it's not really... for me, I'm fine because I'm short against the Swiss franc. So for me, if the move doesn't go against the Swiss... go with the Swiss, i.e. if the safe haven run doesn't happen any further, all that's going to happen is I'm going to be back where I was yesterday. However, if the safe haven run does happen even more, happy days for me. Same with the yen. I'm short the US dollar yen. So the worst thing that can happen is it can come back up to where it was. The best thing that can happen is it can absolutely collapse. So I'm in a really good spot. Aussie New Zealand has not really gone anywhere. We've stuck for 3 days now, 4 days sideways. It's actually longer than that, but we haven't gone anywhere on that one. And my euro US dollar trade has just bottomed out at a triple bottom again today. So this isn't going anywhere either. So this is any European pairs crossed with the US dollar, you're not likely to get a massive impact on anything that happens in the Middle East. So it's all going to be affecting the yen, the Swiss franc, potentially the Aussie and New Zealand pairs because they're commodity pairs. And that's about it. So that's kind of the movement you could sort of expect and forecast today. But anything ADR, as I say, kind of throw it out the window. Anything weekly range based, throw it out the window. You've missed the moves because they've all been massive, spiky, horrible things today. RSIs, obviously you can see the RSI extensions we've just got on the 4-hour charts are Swiss franc related, the big ones, which you would expect because obviously that Swiss franc move. And obviously what's happened is the candles have closed almost perfectly to make an extension on RSI. So there's not a lot of point in looking at these really either. The Aussie dollar CAD's already played out, as you can see. That's on an hourly, but 4 hourly. Yeah, you couldn't really get into these because they've just done that very, 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 very quick. So there's, as I say, it's kind of a day for sitting around and just let's see what happens today. Anything you do today is a flip of a coin. Yeah, it's going to do whatever it's going to do. There's no more news today. That's it for this week. Next week, Monday's dead as well. So I'll do an 8 o'clock stream on Monday because there's no news to look at. So it'd just be a case of having a look at what's happened over the weekend, really. Analysis of the escalation and where things might start to head. But it all kicks off on Tuesday next week with PMIs. So that's really all there is today to look at because there's no point in analysing anything, really. But if anybody's got any pairs they want to look at specifically, let me know. And I will have a look at them. But as I say, it's all about the war. It's all about what happens with the next steps for Israel. So they're also saying as well, Israel, they're going to go in and start the offensive on Rafah in the next couple of weeks, which will, in effect, bring an end to the Gaza conflict. So obviously they've taken all of Gaza, and they're just homing in on that corner now where everybody is, which is where the last pockets of fighting would be. So once that's done, that's Gaza pretty much over. So that frees up all the Israeli forces to do something new. And obviously now we've got that happening. So it might escalate that attack on Rafah as well. And if they do that, that's going to upset the Iranians. So, you know, this is a massive flashpoint we've got at the minute, and potential to drag everybody into it as well. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's it really for today. There's not, as I say, there's not a lot point in looking at too much stuff, because it's really only going to be about the Swiss and the yen today. And it will be a question of, are we going to come back to where we started or are we not? That's today's quandary. And if you want to take any speculative trades, yeah, you've got a chance of getting in this morning and getting a 200 ADR move in your favor, or stopped out. Yeah, but be careful. You know, people are very tempted when they've got these sorts of situations to go, oh, look, reverse alert, CAD Swiss, let's short it. Yeah. You don't get into a position trade because of this. If you're going to get into any trades today, your play is it's going to do that or it's going to collapse. Yeah. So you use a stop loss on it. Yeah. Either the trade is going to work out or it's not. But if it doesn't work out, you could turn it into a position trade. But bear in mind, you've got no extensions here. And there's so anything you do today on these that's speculative, they are gambly type trades. However, if it does kick off, you've got the chance of getting onto something quite special that could last for weeks. So like my oil trade, if this if it plays out, it's something I'm going to be adding. I'm just going to keep adding every time we break a high. I'm adding here. I'm adding here. Yeah, because if it kicks off, this is what I'm expecting to happen. If it doesn't, it's a $1,700 gamble, basically, because all I've done is I've stuck $1,700 into this new account, and it's either going to margin call it or it's going to make me a fortune. That's it. It's those are the types of trades you've got to take at the moment, because that is the situation that we're in. It's either going to go pop or not. I have no idea if it all calms down what will happen with oil, because I don't trade it. I do know in conflict, that's what happens. So if your speculative oil trade works out, what would you stand to make? I don't know. Let's have a look. It's impossible to tell, really, because I don't know how much size I'm going to add at the moment. But the positions that I've got on at the moment, if they all plan out, that's 3K, 6, 7.5. When that 12 goes on, that would be 4.5. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12K. So it's a 10R. That's with these positions. So if I add, and this is assuming, obviously, we get the type of move that I'm expecting, which is, a 300-400 point move, which is typically what we get. So yeah, it'd be about 12K or so, which will pay for that hedging account that lost 10K. That's one of the reasons I'm putting this trade on, is to try and get back the losses from the hedge account, which lost 9.5K. So this will just basically replace that and make some money, which is what I want. because that was my holiday account, basically, second holiday account. That's the only reason I was doing that account, was to try and double it, just to basically go, yeah, there we go. There's a quick 10K. But it didn't work, did it? Because I didn't manage it. So I just let it go and thought, oh, that'll probably work. The Iran-Israel escalation started today. They fire missiles. Yep, thanks, Champagne. I think you're a little late. We've been talking about it for the last half an hour. You're a little late to the game. I've been talking about nothing but. But it's... they fire missiles to North Israel. Iran haven't fired any missiles into Israel. Israel have fired missiles into Iran. Or have I misunderstood what you said there? But yeah, it's basically, that's all today is about. That's, as I said, there's no point in doing any analysis on FX or anything today. What will happen today is this will either go even more crazy or it won't. There's nothing. Nothing exciting going on in the markets, apart from obviously what's happening with the Swiss francs getting sold at the moment. So weakness in the Swissy. So that was a quick. I'm looking at a 5-minute chart. I was like, that's a big move. I was looking at a 5-minute chart. A little bit of weakness in the Swissy. It's, as I said, there's a good chance that this is a knee-jerk reaction. Yeah. Don't forget, all these moves are panic. It's like, holy crap. They've just shot a load of missiles. This could be the start of World War III. Quick, exit anything that's risky. Oh, is that it? They just fired 6 missiles at one spot. 5 of them got taken out. Nothing else has happened. Right, okay. Yeah, it's an emergency sell. Yeah, it's a don't go bankrupt. Take either whatever profit or loss you got, just hit the button, get out of everything. Is it not a problem? All right, we'll get back into everything then. This is what these V-shaped recoveries are, and these A-shaped recoveries, which we see on news events, which I talk about all the time. Oh my God, panic. Don't worry about it. The analysts have said it's okay. All right. So that's what's going to happen today. One of those two things. Panic. Yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah, that's it. This is literally all that happens. It's panic and pain. I'm just going to quickly look at US indices just to see what they've done pre-market today. When you open, what's my mean reversion stats looking like? No change. Still in 15%. I'm stuck here. I mean, well, I'm not. I've banked 2.7% today. So yeah, banked 2.7% today, which was that US dollar Swiss. But yeah, nothing's changed since last week. Nothing's changed. We haven't gone anywhere. Look. So my P&L is not going to change if the market doesn't change. Yeah. Since last week, we are, after that drop that we had on the New Zealand dollar news down to here, this is where we are now. There's the high, there's the low, and that's where it got to. We haven't gone anywhere. So my P&L isn't going to change. It's just exactly where it is. We're waiting for this market to move. I've squeezed out a break-even week, basically. I'm up 4.6 on the month, which is dire. But I can't. You also see I'm not getting into anything new either, because we've not got any movement that is conducive to getting into any new positions. Haven't had any opportunities either. So it's a weird situation. It's very abnormal. I'm not used to being in this sort of situation where you're in stuff that it just gets stuck for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, literally with no movement. I'm happy to be in squeezes, because if the market is squeezing, it's fine, because when the market's finished squeezing, it unwinds the squeeze very quickly. So when you're getting a squeeze, you know that you've got that pressure release coming, which is what we play on. What we're getting is that for weeks. But when you're in this situation, there is no opportunities to get into trades. When you're in this situation in a position, there's no opportunity to add or exit. So it's like you're being pushed into a position and frozen. Either pushed a bit further against you and frozen, or pulled back a little bit in your favor and frozen. But there's no opportunities to get into any new trades either. My P&L hasn't changed in any way, shape or form. I've had a couple of trades, I mean, the Euro New Zealand, that one there last week. Yeah, it was a lovely straight in, straight out. But this is kind of what we're getting. We get the odd entry, which is either a 1 or 2 position straight in, straight out, 2-3 days, or nothing. So yeah, nothing's. I'm just stuck basically. 5% is all right, but it's not enough. I just want stuff to get back to normal, obviously, because it makes life easy, but it's not at the moment. But yeah. So I will be back on Monday. Just keep your eyes peeled on the news today, and see what happens. On Israel launching attack on Iran, China opposes any action escalating tensions. Yeah, so I was watching the news this morning about this, and the overwhelming view is Israel. I mean, this is historical, obviously, but Israel don't pay attention to anybody. Doesn't matter what the world says. They just go, screw you, I'm going to do what I want to do. The problem Netanyahu's got at the moment is he's got a very split party in which there's a big right-wing element, meaning that if he doesn't do what the people want, there will be a breakaway party which will topple him. So he's either got to do what the masses want, and the masses at the moment want to kick Israel, or he gets ousted and the next guy comes in and kicks Iran rather. Doesn't matter what the world says. He can nod and nod and nod, but at the end of the day, there's pressure on him to make his people happy rather than make the rest of the world happy, because that's what he's in charge of, his people. So it does seem like it's going to be very difficult to de-escalate what's going on, because everybody's calling for a poke back, which they've done this morning. So just got to keep your eyes peeled on this, because obviously the world is watching it. We will see it before we know it. Yeah. So with anything you see on this news feed, it's a confirmation of what's happened. Again, it's an indicator which tells you what's just happened. So when you get things like intervention moves on the yen, you will see the yen go vroom, and then you'll be like, over to financial juice, what's going on? There's no news. And then about 3 or 4 minutes later, it will feed into financial juice. So you can't you can't use this as a tool for getting into anything, but you can use it for confirmation of what's just happened. But you'll know what's happened. If the Swiss franc powers up and everything collapses against the Swiss franc, you know they fired more rockets. If the Swiss franc, everything flies up against the Swiss franc, you know that Israel have come out and said, that's it, we're not going to escalate, and Iran have agreed with us. Yeah, so this is where we are. But part of me wants them to shoot missiles, and have Iran shoot them down, so that oil goes up and everything else comes down that's in my favor, but no one gets hurt. It's a very weird situation being a trader, because the only real sure trades you ever know are when there's a conflict going on. Oil's going to do that. Gold's going to do that. Swiss franc is going to drive everything through the floor. Yet it's caused by pain and suffering. And there's the bit in the back of your head that says, should I really be profiting from this? There's always someone to profit on everything, isn't there, when things like that happen? So anyway, we will see what happens today, but just keep your eyes peeled on the news, and we'll have a look at other stuff. Sentiment EA, just a quick update on that before I go. I've got it's working. There's a few things that aren't working, which I'm confused about. But yeah, it's all taking trades and working as I want it to. It's making some decent money at the moment. I made $650 on this account so far in the last couple of days, and this one's made 328, sitting in 400 drawdown and 1,000 drawdown. So yeah, it's all working, but I've got a problem with the sentiment strategy. In that, I'm just trying to find an example. You can see sentiment plotted on the chart here, look. It's interesting how it changes, look, as well. Yesterday, lunch, I had to restart the EAs, so this is why it's only started painting from there. But 58 was the sentiment long yesterday lunchtime. And you see how it changes. It went up to 67 by the end of the day. Ignore that one and ignore that one. Then we were 69, 71, and now we're 77. So it's flicked from 60 up to 67 and now up to 77 within 24 hours. That's a 20-point change in sentiment within 24 hours. So you can see how quick that sentiment changes in retail. It can flip very, very, very quickly. So the problem I've got is, let's say you take this trade, for example. We've gone long here because this one is trading with sentiment. Sentiment is 77 now. So let's say, for example, this drops down here today. If sentiment tomorrow is still 77 or above 70, we go long again. What do we do if the sentiment has dropped below 70, below my trigger level to get into a trade? I need to figure out what to do next. Do you hold it and hope? Do you reduce the stop? Do you get in anyway and turn it into a kind of position trade? So I'm going to let this play out for a week or so and just see what happens to drawdown losses and things. Because at the moment I'm using a 3 ADR stop, which is obviously a long way away because I want to give it loads of room to breathe. But yeah, not quite sure what to do with trades that have no longer got an edge with sentiment. So I need to have a think about how to run this, because it's got potential, but there's problems. So one question: I bought your position trade at EA. Can I let it manage trades that are open by another EA? Yeah, if you use the same magic number. It uses basically the way that the position trader EA works is it basically detects the currency. So it goes, first stop is currency, second stop is magic number. So if you have used an EA that uses magic numbers, which they all should do because it's part of the MQL system, that you use magic numbers, that's why they're there. If you change the magic number to be whatever that other EA was using, it will take over trades from that because it's just using magic numbers on currency. So it goes currency, magic number, and then if you want to use this EA or different EAs on the same currency, that is what that's for. But you shouldn't really be using two EAs on the same account. If you're going to run two different strategies, two different EAs, you should use two different accounts. Otherwise, it's all going to get very messy. So you should always just trade one strategy on one account. This is why brokers allow you to have as many accounts as you want, one for each strategy that you trade. But yeah, it will do. It will take over. So if you want to find out what the magic number is, it's very simple. You just go to your open trades and you hover over any trade, or rather click on one and hover over it. Sometimes it doesn't do it. There we go. I'm placed manually, that's why. And it will give you the magic number. There you go. So it says, you can't read that because it's tiny. but it says placed by expert ID 28. So if you want the EA to take over that trade, you would use magic number 28, and it would just go, right, where was the last trade? Where's the next one going? What was the lot size? What should I use next? And it would just go from there. But like I said, you really want to be using, you don't want to mix your EAs up. Confusion typically ensues. The main reason you don't do it is because you've got no idea what the logic is in that EA is. With EAs, you see a lot on the surface. You see the inputs, and some people like myself create huge manuals detailing exact logic, videos, etc. Other people just release an EA and go, here's a back test, buy it. You've got no idea what's going on in there, how it's working, what it's doing, when it's doing it. So, you know, I would never buy an EA or use an EA unless I knew exactly what the logic was and how that thing works, because you're placing something on an account and you're letting it just do what the hell it likes. You've no idea. There could be somebody in some far off country like linking into that EA doing, you know, you got to know what you're doing with these EAs, which is why anything you buy from the marketplace is good, because it's all got to go through stringent testing to get onto the marketplace. But you've got to be careful with EAs. I know from experience, don't forget I've been doing this for 15 years. I've bought a lot of EAs and I've seen how crap some of them are, and obviously how dangerous some of them are. Some of them ask you to open up, you know, links to websites, which is fine. But what is that link doing? What are you giving it access to? You know, there's just got to be careful. My other EA only opens one trade. Yeah. So if you want to turn another EA that uses a stop into a position trading strategy, then yes, but you obviously got to be careful what that other EA does with its take profits and things, because they'll be fighting each other for control of the trade, basically. Could you use an MA cross if below your target sentiment? For what, though? So this one's in a sell at the moment. So if we trade up here and the sentiment is no longer saying we should be shorting it, regardless of whether it's trading with or against sentiment, that move's already happened. So the question is not what, the question is not, you know, the question is, what do you do with it? Do you close it? Do you hold it? Do you turn it into a position trade? Do you reduce the stop loss down to a recent high? There's a billion things you can do with this. The whole point of this thing is it gets in and trades against sentiment. So I think what it should do is, if sentiment is not now on our side, just close it at the end of the day. It's wrong. That's what I'm edging towards. Because the thing you got to remember with sentiment is, like, this has gone from being, this is a bad example because that's not a bad example. Look, so the sentiment on this yesterday was 33% of the market was short on it. During the night, that dropped to 19% and then to 16%, and we're now sitting at 18%. So sentiment short has halved in the last 24 hours. So there is a possibility that this will now go from, like, it could go from 33 to 45 to 57 to 75 within 24 hours, meaning that instead of going that way, I should be going that way. So within 24 hours, it could have flipped from the entire market wanting to short it to the entire market wanting to long it. A news event. Yeah. CPI changed on the US dollar. Everybody's direction went, oh, hang on, we don't want to be doing that. We want to do it the other way now. You want to be out of that, because there's a chance that's just going to continue to go completely against you, especially if sentiment is now the other way and the market has decided to flip direction. You could be getting in just at the wrong time. So I think you should shut these at end of day. But what I'm thinking of doing is, rather than saying, because my trigger at the moment is 70%, if 70% of the market is in one direction, that's enough. So what I'm thinking is that could drop down to 67% at the end, towards the end of the day, but then pick up again to 73% the following day. So I don't want to close it just because we've had a slight dip in the sentiment. But what I'm thinking is to have a line in the sand. So let's say, for example, 70 is our trigger level. If it drops to 60 at the end of the day, close it. Or the next day, if it drops to 60, as we're going along, monitoring it, close it. So having a level, which is kind of like your line in the sand, if the sentiment flips the opposite side against you too much, let's just jump ship. But that's my kind of thoughts on it at the moment. But first of all, I'm going to let this play out for a couple of weeks and just see how it handles it, and see what sort of drawdown we get into, and see how bad situations get. And the fact that it's plotting on here as well gives me an indication for when things have changed. So if we suddenly see this 19 or 18 here suddenly flip to a 25 and then flip to a 50 and then flip to a 62 within 24 hours, why has it done that? And I'm 99% sure I'll be able to look at financial news and go, oh, there was a news event. Because the market sentiment will change on news. Yeah, CPI. The CPI figure for the US dollar suddenly drops, everyone's going to be bearish on the US again. Sentiment is going to flip. How long is it going to take to do that flip? Probably not more than 24, 48 hours, is it? So you want to be out. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. It's just, this is all experimental. So what it's all about. Playing around. Did you continue testing the full portfolio? Did you continue testing the full portfolio if overall in profit close all trades? No. No. So what it's doing now is it's doing what I intended it to do originally, which was it closes out profitable trades. So as you can see, ignore all these ones from yesterday because this was me manually closing stuff out. Oh no, hang on, no, it wasn't. There was a point yesterday where I shut stuff. There you go. So anything below that line was me mucking about yesterday because I wanted to get it flat to do some testing. So yeah, as you can see, yesterday the pound yen, euro yen, it closed out. Swiss yen, it closed out. New Zealand Swiss, CAD Swiss, it closed out. But New Zealand Swiss was closed out at $3.50 because it was in profit. So, you know, it's not a lot of profit. There you go, look. So the trade was opened there. Didn't go anywhere. And then we got into profit yesterday at the end of the day, so it closed it. It was like, well, it's not going anywhere, but we are in profit, so I'll close it. And I'll look at sentiment tomorrow. Sentiment is still saying long. So it's got in again. So, you know, this is the whole point of it. Sentiment, if you are correct with or against the sentiment bias, what should happen is an intraday move should go against sentiment, obviously. So theory being is that you get in the morning, and if sentiment is right and the market is going to move against it, you just get out in the evening. Whether you get 200 ADR out of it or you get that much out of it, doesn't matter, does it? Because tomorrow you start again. What's sentiment today? Still long? All right, let's go long again. Now today is the day that the market moves 200 ADR against it. Fantastic, let's get out. Let's look tomorrow. What sentiment? Are they still long? Well, they're idiots. Okay, we're getting again. That's what it's designed to do. It's just literally saying, what are that lot doing? Right, don't do that. But you can also close it out at end of day if it's in a loss as well. But there's a setting in the EA to do that, but I'm not using that at the moment. The problem with sentiment strategies is you can't backtest them. Yeah, because it's real time. Yeah, this isn't an indicator sentiment. It's something that is a real-time thing. So you can't backtest. You can only, we know for a fact that if the market is long something, it goes the other way. We know that for a fact. We can prove that, no problem. We've got historical data showing that. What we don't know is what the intraday movement is and how the intraday movement goes, because that data is not available or published. So you've got to kind of extrapolate a strategy around how it should play out. We know that if they all go long, the market is going to go short if they remain long. This is why I'm having this painted on every candle, so I can see hour by hour exactly how sentiment is changing intraday, because that gives us clues as to how we can build a strategy. But it's going to take time to gather the data. So, but yeah, we'll see. But it's making profit. You know, we're only 2 days in though, so early doors. CAD yen's just hit 150 of ADR. Weakness in the yen. Wow. So that yen move, complete V-shaped recovery on the yen moves, basically. So the market decided it didn't want to be in the safe haven of the yen. CAD yen totally undone. Swiss yen sideways because they're both strong. Euro yen undone. Pound yen undone. New Zealand dollar yen pretty much, and US dollar yen pretty much as well. Although that is holding better, which is good. So all the yen moves undone. The Swiss franc is undoing as well. So this is a knee-jerk, total knee-jerk reaction this morning. So again, all reset, back to square one. US dollar CAD. So this is Canadian dollar strength at the moment. So this is the CAD. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, CAD weakness. Sorry, not strength. So this is CAD weakness. It's not actually. It's not anything. I don't know why that's. It's just US dollar dropping. Maybe a little bit of CAD strength at the same time. Hard to tell. It's been hard to tell anything today because everything's all over the place. Yeah, it's coming down at the minute. Not that I'm in it, but nice reversal alert. That's your retest into propulsion. Euro yen 150 ADR. So they're just undoing the yens. If you're using the market reversal alerts, EA, just check your accounts because it doesn't handle these multi-ADR moves very well. So you might find it starting to try and go long, which, you know, might not be a bad thing, but personally, I'd rather go the other way. Anyway, so I will be back tomorrow. No, I won't. I'll be back on Monday. I'm going to do a morning one on Monday, so it'll be an 8 o'clock. And we'll pick apart what's happened over the weekend. So just be careful with exposure this weekend because you will find there may be something kicking off, may do absolutely nothing, but just be a little careful and bear in mind that the vast majority of movement will be Swiss and yen related. So everything else is going to be a little bit flat probably, but we'll see what happens. So yeah. We'll hold on to stuff and see where we go. But anything else you need, I'll be in Telegram and Discord over the weekend. So I will be back Monday morning and I'll publish the schedule for next week over the weekend. But yeah, Monday morning because there's no news. So nothing else to worry about this weekend. All right. Have a good one. Anybody needs anything, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week.